Are you ready for last week's lesson in Daniel today? I had too much going on last week and I just did not get this lesson done. I did get it done this week, and I think it's going to be a short lesson. And here's why. Daniel chapter 10 is just an introduction to Daniel chapters 11 and 12, which complete the book. Those chapters contain the vision this chapter introduces. But don't skip this chapter because it's got some pretty interesting stuff in it. So Daniel has another vision, obviously, since that's what he is in 11 and 12. And this vision is for the end time enthusiasts. 11 and 12 are significant. We'll get to that. But here, Daniel says in verses 1 through 3, during King Cyrus of Persia's third year of ruling, Daniel, also known as Belteshazzar, had another vision. This vision was about an enormous war that would happen. He understood what this vision was saying. When this vision came to me, I mourned for 3 weeks. During those 3 weeks, I had none of the fine foods available to me. I did not eat any meat. I did not drink any wine. I didn't even use any lotions for those 3 weeks. Wow, must have been something. Didn't eat meat, didn't drink wine, didn't use lotions. Does that strike you as strange? I'll come back to it. Daniel mourned for 3 weeks, okay, after seeing this vision. That's what he said. And he only ate plain foods, probably breads, fruits, and vegetables, is my guess, but nothing fixed in any fancy recipes and no meat or wine. And what's this about he didn't use any lotions? Doesn't that seem a little strange? Well, let's think about this. Daniel was probably about 85 to 90 years old at this time, and I'd say on the low end of that, but I'm going to give it a range. And having lived among royalty and being privileged, an elderly man would have probably used lotions. I'm not 85 yet, but I already can relate. Skin dries out when you get old. If you don't know it, you'll learn it if you live long enough. But all of this should just tell us how upsetting Daniel found this vision. Do you understand that? It seems very important in my opinion. So let's see what Daniel says in his introduction to this vision, because we got some verses to go here. Verses 4 to 6. On the 24th day of the first month, while I was standing alongside the mighty Tigris River, I saw a man standing before me. He was wearing fine linen with a belt of fine gold from Uphaz. His body looked like it was made from topaz, and his face was bright as lightning. His eyes were like blazing torches, and his arms and legs shone like polished bronze. His voice was as loud as a multitude of people, all shouting together. Okay, Daniel, could you cram more into the paragraph? Okay, 24th day of the first month. Is that significant? Well, not to you and me, maybe. But it could be. Do you know why? Several Bible commentaries, including some well-respected commentaries, and far too many preachers will tell you that Daniel's vision occurred during the time of the Passover and Feast of Unleavened Bread. What they are saying is that Daniel came at the end of his 3 weeks period of mourning. Read this passage again, and people, when I disagree with commentaries I respect and use a lot, I worry. Did I get it wrong? I don't want to do that. But if you read this passage again, and my paraphrase matches up with most of the major translations of today, and It seems, in my opinion, Daniel's 3 weeks of mourning came as a result of seeing his vision. In other words, the 24th day of the first month would have been 10 days after the Passover, because that's when this was, and 3 days after the conclusion of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Either way, to Jewish readers, this would have given them context. And, oh, by the way, definitions. Uphaz, U-P-H-A-Z, location's unknown. I can't find it. Scholars far wiser than me, archaeologists, historians, they don't know. But obviously it was a source of some good gold. And topaz. Now that's a word you might know if you like gemstones and such. But it really means a crystal clear gem. So this man that appeared had a belt of really fine gold, and his body appeared like crystal clear gem. In other words, almost a shiny diamond, you know? Not quite, but close. Verses 7 and 9, Daniel writes this, I was the only person to see this vision. The people with me did not see it. However, they became terrified and ran off to hide. This left me alone, staring at this impressive vision. My body felt weak, my face paled, and I felt helpless. Then I heard the man speak, and as I listened to him, I fell into a deep sleep, laying with my face on the ground. What is significant here? Okay. Daniel was not alone. What were they doing? We don't know. But evidently this story is similar to the more familiar story of Saul on the road to Damascus. The people with Daniel did not see the vision, like the people with Saul. But something about this incident frightened them so much they ran away and hid. Do you think it was the sound of the man speaking to Daniel? Why did I put air quotes around that? We'll see. Daniel understood the sound of this man, but they just heard a sound from heaven. And if you want to read Saul's story, go to Acts 9. You can read it. Compare it to this. But Daniel said he felt weak, and then he fell asleep when the man started speaking, and he laid on the ground with his face on the ground. Sounds like this vision almost transformed into a dream. Well, but that's not quite true, as we will see in the next verse. So what do you think this sleep was like? Fainting? What? So, verses 10 and 11. Daniel writes, Then a hand touched me and lifted me onto my hands and knees, trembling. The man said, Daniel, you are highly respected. Listen carefully to what I'm going to tell you. Stand up, because I was sent to you. So I stood up, still trembling. Okay, when this man, let's say it the way it should be. Now, the Bible says when this man, I'm going to tell you, when this angel appeared, you'll see, Daniel was immediately afraid, but the man told Daniel that he was highly respected. What did that mean? Who respected him? You know, the New Living Translation says, Daniel was very precious to God. Quote, very precious to God, end quote. That seems like a very poor translation in my opinion. That belongs in a paraphrase, if it belongs at all. Because it's not in the original Aramaic. It is not there. And this is an example of why I strongly urge you to use multiple translations, respected translations. There are no other significant English translations that say Daniel is respected or loved by God. The original Aramaic text does not contain the word for God in this verse. Basically, it says Daniel was respected. That could mean respected by God, but without any other indication, It sure seems to be saying that kings and people in general respected him. What do you think? Who respected Daniel so much? Well, the next paragraph is going to help us figure this one out. Hint. I suspect the man was telling Daniel that it was highly respected by God. I also suspect that Daniel already knew he was highly respected by people. Don't you? I mean, he's been a captive and serving the king of the greatest empire for 70 years. And he interpreted dreams and visions, and he provided wisdom. He was respected. So let's see if I'm right. Verses 12 to 14. Yeah, I cheated. I read ahead. But I take the verses as they come. And that's where I wrote that, because that's what I was reading then. Yes, I knew what came next. Just telling you how I go through and make my paraphrase and my commentary. Verse 12 to 14, he continued speaking, Daniel, you have no reason to be afraid. Since the first day that you decided to focus on God, understanding God's desires and to humble yourself before him, God has heard your prayers, and now I have come in response to your prayers. But the prince of Persia blocked my way to you for 21 days. It wasn't until the mighty angel Michael came to help me that I was able to come to you. I am here to explain what will happen to your people in the future. This vision is about a future time. Wow. Pina colada today, flavored water. I kind of like it. How do you think Daniel felt when he heard that God was hearing his prayers? Did you extrapolate what that might mean for you? If you take a moment to think about it, doesn't this serve as a reminder that God hears our prayers? Sure, we know that God hears our prayers, but do we accept it? Do we really believe that God hears our prayers? I'm just asking. Do you really believe God hears your prayers? Verses 15 to 17. While he spoke to me, I kept my face bowed to the ground, totally speechless. Then the one who looked like a man touched my lips. I then opened my mouth and began to speak to him. I am extremely distressed because of this vision, my Lord, and I feel very weak. How can your servant talk with you, my Lord? My strength is gone, and I can barely breathe. Wow. It's a great illustration of the impact the presence of an angel can have. Think about it. When Moses was in the presence of God, his face was shining so bright that the people couldn't stand to be near him. That's in Exodus 34. Daniel couldn't stand. He felt like he couldn't even breathe. And he couldn't even talk until the angel touched his lips. And, I skipped over something I'm going to come back to. I'm not even going to tell you what I skipped over. I was going to, but I forgot, and I'm not going to say it now. Verses 18 and 19, he touched me again, and I felt my strength return. He said, don't be afraid. You are highly respected. Peace to you. Be strong. When he said that, I felt strong and said, speak, my Lord. You have given me strength. All right, so the angel touched Daniel again, and he felt stronger. Remember, the first time he touched him, Daniel got up on his hands and knees. Now he's standing up, and the angel repeats to Daniel, you are highly respected. Okay. Yeah, that's cool too. Daniel had to hear it more than once. You sometimes feel like you should hear it the first time? I've been studying God's Word for a long time, longer than most of you have been alive. And I'm still learning new things every time through. I want to go back and rewrite every lesson and sermon I've ever done. And no doubt a year from now or 5 years from now, I want to rewrite this one. But no doubt that Daniel, angel touching Daniel, gave him strength. But don't you think hearing that again, that you are highly respected, don't you think that would make Daniel feel a little stronger? Well, the man replied to Daniel in verses 20 and 21, "Do you know why I have come to you? I must return to my battle against the prince of Persia. Then the prince of Greece will come. Before I leave, I will tell you what is written in the book of truth. No one helps me against these princes except Michael, your prince." So people, do you believe in guardian angels? Or is that just something we tell children, or maybe some weirdos believe? Well, you know how those people are. They all believe. Listen, in Revelation 2 and 3, John was told that each city had their own angel. Jews reading Revelation would have remembered what Daniel wrote here. The angel speaking to Daniel seems to be saying he is an angel protecting Persia, and an angel protecting Greece was coming. And earlier we had Michael, and this is the thing I skipped over. This angel couldn't get to Daniel until Michael came, one of the archangels, as he's been called by us, by humans. I do not know or understand exactly how spiritual warfare happens. It seems to me that perhaps spiritual battles are beyond human understanding. But here we are given an example that might help us. Just might help us understand such things a little bit anyway. He's the prince of Persia. Well, he's fighting against the prince of Persia. That'd be the fallen angel. So he'd be the protector of Persia. And the protector of Greece is coming, and Michael had to help him. You know, Frank Peretti wrote a couple of books that really helped me understand the concept of spiritual warfare. I have purchased many copies of these two books over the years and given them away. First, and Frank Peretti wrote some pretty good other books too. Wrote some other books that are pretty good too. Get the dangling participle out of there. The first book I read by Frank Peretti, my wife had read, and I was, And when I read it, I was like, wow. It's called This Present Darkness. And then there's a sequel called Piercing the Darkness. I couldn't wait to get to the second one, not even halfway through the first one. They describe spiritual warfare parallel to earthly warfare. So battles going on in both realms at the same time in the same place. I have no idea how accurate his description of spiritual warfare is. But these are two books that help me understand spiritual warfare. Whether it's this way or not, it helps me understand that based on Daniel and Revelation, I believe Frank Peretti's got a good picture. I highly recommend that every Christian should read both of those books, along with some of the others he wrote. All right. I'm going to stop there. In our next lesson, we will get to the vision. I don't know if I can do it in half an hour per chapter, or if I need 3 half-hour sessions for 2 chapters. I don't know yet. I'll be honest with you, they ain't writ yet. God bless. Have a wonderful week. Bye now.